I want to talk about something that comes up a lot, especially this time of year when so many little ones are congested, and that's nursing in a carrier when your baby is sick. I know it feels like super convenient. I know it feels like hands-free would make the day so much easier, but I want to walk through why this specific combination can increase risk. So, infants plus congestion plus feeding, the quick physiology of it all. So young infants rely heavily on nasal breathing, especially during feeding. Even though the term obligate nose breathers gets debated, the reality is when their nose is stuffy, feeding just becomes harder. The suck, swallow, breathe rhythm only works when the airway is open, and congestion interrupts that rhythm, which means that babies have to work much harder to coordinate feeding and breathing at the same time. So why does adding a carrier change the situation? Carriers themselves aren't inherently dangerous. That is something that I really want you to remember. Upright carrying is actually really wonderful for drainage, comfort, and regulation when babies are not feeling well. The issue is not the carrier, it is trying to feed in the carrier while sick. So when you nurse in a carrier, a couple of things happen. So first of all, your line of sight is reduced, your hands are less available for micro adjustments, and it's much easier to get distracted and assume that they're fine because they're all snuggled in. And when a baby is congested, they need more monitoring. The risk is just simply higher because their breathing is already compromised. So what are the aspiration and airway obstruction risks? Well, when the nose is blocked, babies will try to compensate by opening their mouth, but in a carrier, the angle is not always ideal. Feeds can get a little messy, milk can pool, things hurt a little bit, and aspiration risk increases, and that's not because you're doing anything wrong, but that is because just everything. And this is really where human risk becomes the real, and this is where human error really becomes the biggest risk factor. It's not being smothered by the carrier. It's not that baby wearing is unsafe. It's that feeding while sick requires more active, present, moment-to-moment support. So what can you do instead? Here is the simplest, safest rhythm. Feed your baby outside of the carrier where you have full visibility and your hands free, and then you put them back in the carrier afterwards so that the way they can get all the comfort, drainage support, and closest that they need when they're not feeling well. And that way you're meeting their needs and protecting their airway at the exact same time. Baby carriers are absolutely incredible tools when babies are sick. They really are. They help with drainage, comfort, and regulation, and it's the act of feeding inside the carrier, especially with congestion, that adds a layer of risk that we just don't want to take on as parents.